Now, because it's our 500th video, I wanted to bring you guys something a little more special than what we usually do. So I have brought you a 2022 Shelby GT500, which I've never done a full review of before. And it's not only because this is the GT500, so the name matches the amount of videos, but also because this is Ford's highest performing Mustang that they sell today. And it's from the S550 generation, the outgoing generation of the Mustang. So I thought, why not bring a review? I'm Aiden, and you're watching Gone Next. Now, a little background on this Shelby GT500. First, it's spec'd with the $18,500 carbon fiber track package, which means you get upgraded wheels, a carbon fiber spoiler, and some other little goodies on the car. On top of that, this car is going back to Shelby to be converted to a KR model, which is a special GT500, and the KR stands for King of the Road, where they add a bunch of horsepower and they add some more track-focused features. So yes, this thing is not done being changed up yet. Let's talk about the powertrain powering this specific GT500. It's powered by a supercharged 5.2-liter V8. It's an Eaton 2.7-liter supercharger, and it pushes out a combined 760 horsepower and 625 pound-feet of torque through a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission to the rear wheels. And it will do 0 to 100 to 0 miles an hour in 10.6 seconds and run low 10s in the quarter-mile stock. It does 0 to 60 between 3.5 seconds and 3.7 seconds. It's incredibly fast and a very track-focused American beast of a sports car. Now let's talk about this GT500 compared to a normal Mustang, especially up front. This is 1 inch wider than a normal Mustang GT is, and that's mainly due to these larger tires and more flared fenders up front. You also have this heat extractor up here, which helps with cooling. And up front down here with the headlights, it's not like a normal S550 Mustang. It actually uses the headlights from the first generation of the S550 Mustang, which are these more sharper and straight on headlights rather than the teardrop ones that the current outgoing version of the Mustang uses. You also have this more aggressive front splitter with Shelby down here in the bottom, and instead of having a Mustang badge up front, you now have the Cobra snake with GT500 in the bumper, and it's definitely a more aggressive looking front bumper with more aggressive headlights and fog lights. And instead of having a normal opening hood, you now have these different push button latches to get the hood open instead. And because this hood is heavier because of the larger heat extractor and everything on it, you do get a gastro strut now that keeps that hood open instead of having to hold it open, especially in the heat right now, and get a hood prop to keep it open. So Ford's and Shelby have focused on a little more creature comforts than they normally would on a Mustang GT. Now let's talk about these rims and tires real quick. Since this has that $18,500 carbon fiber track package on it, you get these 20-inch rims on the front and back. And wrapping these rims up front is 305mm Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, which is the highest end tire you can get for road legal cars for track use on the market today, or at least that's my opinion. And you also have those in the back, except as a 315 variant instead, to help manage all that power that's being put down by this car. You also have these 16.5-inch brake rotors up here with gripped by these 6-piston calipers, which is insane size for brakes. Now for the rear rotors, you have 14.6-inch rotors in the rear gripped by 4-piston calipers, which is still pretty beefy for a car like this. Now one thing I want to talk about when it comes to the GT500 is going to be its curb weight. This thing nearly weighs 4,200 pounds, which is heavier than its competitor, the ZL1, and it's heavier than its normal naturally aspirated counterpart, the Mustang GT, which weighs nearly 500 pounds less than this one does. And you cannot tell me that a supercharger weighs 500 pounds. Not to say there's not other upgrades, but with the carbon fiber and everything on this car, I expect it to be not that much heavier than a normal GT is. Other things on the side include a more pronounced side skirt on the side, which brings out a little more of an aggressive appearance. Wider rear end. This has a larger rear track width than the normal Mustang GT does. And instead of a GT badge on the side, now you have a Cobra. Now in the back of the car, the first thing you're going to notice is this massive carbon fiber wing that you get with that $18,500 carbon fiber track package At 180 miles an hour, this will produce 550 pounds worth of downforce. And on the back, instead of having the normal GT badge, now you have a Cobra and these larger exhaust tips in the back with this more aggressive rear valence. And if you're still interested in carrying stuff in the rear of the car, the trunk still does have a good amount of space. Actually, what looks to be about the same amount of space as a normal GT does, so you're not sacrificing anything there, just in case you're interested in that. But with this wing, the larger exhaust tips, and the more aggressive rear valence, this car looks so much better than a normal GT does. Now let's not forget that this car is going to sound amazing from that 5.2 liter V8. Let's go ahead and start it and see what it sounds like. There we go. Sounds pretty good to me. Now let's talk about the inside of the GT500 real quick, starting with the materials in here. They're generally nice, nothing different than a normal Mustang. Nice leather on the center part of the door panel right here. Nice Alcantara on the steering wheel. You don't get this in a normal Mustang, and you get the Cobra badge, of course, but the door materials for the rest of the door and the dash are generally nice for a Mustang, but they're not perfect. Now, when it does come to the steering wheel, you get a bunch of cool little features on here. You can control your suspension and your steering settings using these two buttons on the steering wheel right here. And instead of having a little Mustang, you have a Cobra button, which brings you, instead of to the Mustang menu, now it's called the Cobra menu. And that's where you can control things like your My Mode, your track apps, your performance shift indicator, the design of your gauges, and the exhaust mode of your car, which can also be controlled using the exhaust switch in the center control stack, along with the drive mode switch in the center control stack. Now, because you get these Recaro bucket seats with the Alcantara and the nice leather, you don't get heated or cooled seats in the GT500, but you still maintain dual zone climate control and a Sync 3 system that is a little dated at this point. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but other than that, guys, come on, it's about time that the Mustang receives a proper update instead of this. Like I said, in the center control stack, you have multiple switches down here, namely one for your exhaust mode, which goes all the way from quiet all the way up to track mode, which is what we should all be driving a GT500 in. And you also have a mode switcher where you have a drag strip mode, a track mode, Sport Plus, Sport, and you have a normal wet and slippery mode, just in case you're deciding to drive your GT500 through the snowy mountains of Canada. On the passenger side of the dashboard, you have a GT500 and a chassis number badge and a carbon fiber inlay for the dashboard, which is nice. That is real carbon fiber, by the way, not that fake stuff that other people use. Your glove box is a nice size, same size as a normal GT, and your center console has a 12-volt socket and a USB Type-A, the same it had in 2015. So Ford, it's about time this gets updated, which it is with the 2024. Now, because this uses a completely different transmission than a normal Mustang GT does, instead of getting the normal Prindle that you get, the shift lever that you get on the 10-speed, you now have this little rotary dial for where you can switch in between PR and D, and instead of a sport mode, there is a manual mode. And I know a lot of people have complained about this. Instead of getting a manual handbrake, now you have an electronic brake instead of a manual one, which means you aren't going to be able to do any sick drifts. Now, don't fret, because instead of this having a manual handbrake like every other Mustang, you can control the stability control and turn it all the way off by holding in the traction control switch for 5 seconds, which will turn advanced track completely off. So if you want to send your 625 pound-foot torque monster all the way around in donuts, you can, but just don't use this video to claim to your insurance company that's not that fault that you slammed the rear end of your GT500 into a pole, because guess what? We're not paying for it. Now, it will interest you to know that you can only carry 2 people in this car, and the reason I say that is because the normal Mustang GT or EcoBoost can carry up to 4 people with its tiny little back seats, except in the GT500 for weight reduction, which no, not weight reduced. You don't actually get back seats back here. In fact, there's a little sticker in the back that says explicitly not to put people behind the front seats, because there ain't no seat belts back there. So what do I think of the GT500? Well, to be honest with you, it's pretty mid. No, but in all honesty, the GT500 is one of the greatest cars to ever come out of America, alongside of the Camaro ZL1, the Dodge Viper, and the Dodge Charger, Hellcat, and Demon. I almost got that completely mixed up in my head because Dodge makes 3 crazy cars coming out of America. But yes, this sits along those cars as some of the craziest things that have ever come out of this country. And until you have the time or the opportunity to drive one of these, you're never going to be able to experience why people love cars like this. Yes, it weighs just as much as a boat does, and it is only 200 pounds less than a normal Hellcat, so this is not much lighter, but it doesn't drive like one, and I can tell you that from experience. If you ever have the chance to drive yourself a GT500, make sure you take that opportunity. And I cannot wait until this one is converted into a KR level GT500, because that means this thing is going to be even crazier. So, yes, GT500 is great. Thank you guys so much for watching up to 500 of our videos, and of course, it's a joke that we brought this out for the GT500 for the 500th video. I mean, of course I want to review this car. This car is awesome, but I still want to thank all of you for watching up to 500 of our videos. And if you've been around since 2 years ago is when I made the first one, I don't know, but that is a long time to be making videos, and that'd be a long time for you guys to be watching them. Sadly, I didn't get to do a driving portion of this car in this video, but there is a video of me driving this car that I'm sure you guys would love to see, and you can get that by clicking up in the pop-out banner, where you could click on the link to go see me drive this car and really experience what it's like to be behind the wheel of this 760 horsepower monster made by Ford and Shelby. If you guys like the video, make sure to hit that like button down below, and if you want to see more from us, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you all at the next 500 video.